Good news is the Flames lost again. It'll help their draft positioning. Bad news is they only have just a few more opportunities to do this and hope to make a difference.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me here today as we finish off the week with yet another Flames loss, potentially another one on Saturday, but also winners and losers of the week. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit fanduel.com/locked-on to get started. Well, today I am flying solo and we are going to talk about the the universe not wanting the Flames to have any sort of peace of mind last night against the St. Louis Blues, and the LA Kings are coming to town this weekend, and I thought they would be interesting to take a look at in terms of teams that had to kind of rebuild. But it is also Friday. So you know that we are going to do our winners and losers of the week. But let's dive into today's episode. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. You can find us wherever you get your shows, and we are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. Last night was quite the game, I would say, simply because Jonathan Huberdeau scored a power play goal. And Kuzmenko scored twice, really 3 times, but they called it back. And Sharon Govich also had a goal overturned. It was very nice to see Huberdeau and Kuzmenko score. I will say, I think that they are, they're still going out there. They're doing their job. But we know this team was never going to buy into the I'm not even going to go out there and skate around for 60 minutes. I'm going out there and putting in some effort, even if it's also against a team that stinks. But what was even harder to watch than the goals getting overturned was the defense, or lack thereof, because the Flames went from having one of the best defensive cores in the league to whatever this is. And they were missing Shillington last night. He missed the game due to undisclosed reasons. Obviously hope he's doing okay. And then kind of have just 3 other guys that are just kind of there. You don't have anyone that is a staple. Like Nikita Zadorov, while he wasn't always making the smartest moves, he was still a body, and a big body, that was able to protect the blue line. And that is just, it was so crucial. And to think that this is where the team is at now it's a little painful. And Chris Tanev was such a huge part of this defensive group, and I'm really intrigued how they're going to fix this. And I know it's never going to be fixed overnight, and I do think that they have some players that might be able to graduate to the NHL. However, is it going to be something as smooth as, say, Zary or Pospisil's jump to the NHL? I don't know. However, I just can't wait until we have something a little more legitimate out there. It has been so painful to watch, even if you are Team Tank, you're just looking at that and you're like, okay, great. Like, I'm glad you're giving up goals, but how on earth is this a real defense? And then on the other end of it, you have Dustin Wolf, who has to play behind this defense. And the poor thing, like, two-time AHL goaltender of the year, it makes the jump to the NHL potentially full-time. And, like, he's obviously working in a tandem with Markstrom right now because Vladar had season-ending hip surgery. But I was hoping things are gonna go a little bit smoother for him. That's why I really wanted him to get settled in front of, or I guess behind a defense that was a legitimate defense and not just, your your Rasmus Anderson, Mackenzie Weegar, and Oliver Shillington. And then 3 warm bodies because you're not gonna go very far. But I really hope that things kind of adjust and shift for him and he doesn't lose that confidence because I think that he is capable of playing at the NHL level. Like, he has exhibited all of that and it's great to see. And we know he excelled developmentally. So he kind of, I don't want to say prematurely took jumps because they were like very well earned, but with the amount of games played and his age, with his size, and that's a point of contention for a lot of people. It's okay that this feels like it's in line with where he is supposed to be. So we're just gonna have to ride this out because while it stinks, he is at least getting NHL reps. And I hope the Flames have a plan. So it's not always like this. But coming up next, we are going to take a look at the Flames' next opponent that comes to town on Saturday, and that would be the Los Angeles Kings. But before we do that, we are going to take a quick break, and I will be right back. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive today at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss a show. The Kings were obviously a team that needed to be bad again before they were able to be good. And they're on their way to being good again. They were playing really good hockey up until, I want to say, like the roster freeze in December, and then it lost its sustainability, which, I mean, you look at teams like Arizona too, and they're not always going to have hot streaks that carry through the entire season or a majority of the season. I think about Buffalo a few years ago and how they had like 3 straight Novembers where they were on fire and everyone was like, "Is this the year they finally make the playoffs?" we're still waiting. But the Kings are currently fighting for a wild card spot with Nashville. I would say that they are, they have been in the playoffs the last few years, but this feels like one of those opportunities that Nick and I talk about all the time, where you need those multiple attempts to play in the playoffs before you actually get something out of it. And I feel like Quentin Byfield has also made the jump this season from, just I want to say like just a guy, but he is showing signs of improvement. And believe it or not, it doesn't always happen overnight. There are some guys that just need to bake a little bit longer and get in those reps before you start seeing the talent, the full talents and potential of why they were drafted. And I'm I'm impressed with LA because they are still in the thick of, the wild card spot. They're 3 points behind Nashville with a game in hand, and it's very like, they could very well make the playoffs, and they had a coaching change this season. They went on a stretch where things were really not that good. They've been injured a ton. They've, of course, acquired, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and that has just been, you know, a a good thing or a bad thing depending on who you ask and what day of the week it is, but they have made necessary adjustments to become a better team, and it's something else that you can examine as well. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and dissect their entire last, like, 4 or 5 years, but you could definitely see the stark difference, even with, Anze Kopitar and Drew Doughty and, um, Kempe getting older. So, it's it's good. I would say the Kings are another team to kind of watch in terms of how the Flames go to handle things and maybe what they might be taking from other teams, especially other teams in their division. But on a very real note, I would much rather have Nashville in the playoffs. And not because the Kings are like a Pacific Division opponent. Nashville has that underdog mentality to them. And it's not like this false underdog mentality that's like manufactured. Like you think of the New England Patriots in the NFL for years who were like, no one thinks we can win. And it's like, no, everyone knows you're going to the Super Bowl as soon as the season starts. Like Nashville has so many exciting pieces to it. They weren't convinced that they were out of it, and they didn't really sell at the deadline. They didn't UC Saros was I was shocked to see his name on the trading block, and he's still there. And Roman Yossi just played his 900th game, and I feel ancient. But the thing about Nashville is that they have also been bad to be good. And it's another example and another team the Flames can learn from. Um, they're also a fringe playoff team, just like the Kings at this point, obviously. But the thing that raises questions about both of those teams is the goaltending. I don't know what the Kings' long-term plan is for their goaltending, and I think that Nashville's is Askarov, and I am just very intrigued to see what the the future holds for both of those teams. I am fully pulling for Nashville to make the postseason. I think that they realistically have more younger pieces, I would say, to, you know, it's sustainable for there's enough gas in that tank, and I think that, we talked about it yesterday on yesterday's show, about the depth. And I think that Nashville may have, I think they're both pretty well-rounded rosters, but I feel like Nashville just has it, um, I don't kind of has an advantage to them. I think that injuries and age have played a big factor, obviously, and I feel like Nashville could be a true spoiler for a lot of teams this postseason, and I love an upset, of course, unless it is my team. I have a feeling Jacob Markstrom will start on Saturday against the Kings, and the Kings will collect 2 more points, and they will either be tied with Nashville or they will be, because I'm not sure if I think they lost to the Oilers last night, but I feel like the Kings, yeah, they got smoked by the Oilers. So they're going to come in to the game on Saturday with something to prove, because like you cannot lose to both Edmonton teams, or both, oh my gosh, Alberta teams, especially because the Kings and the Oilers have met in the playoffs 2 years in a row. Could it be 3? Uh, I would love to sit down and examine the Kings rebuild. I think listening to Locked On Kings from, like, the bubble forward is a great starting point. Sarah has did a fantastic job as a host covering the not so good days. And of course, Eddie has been the host now for 2 seasons, and he's done a fantastic job. He's a pleasure to listen to, and he's incredibly knowledgeable. And of course, Anne and Nick over at Lockdown Predators have an incredible show. They're a great dynamic duo, and they are a blast to listen to. So make sure you are subscribed to your favorite, I guess your second favorite team, uh Locked On podcast, because we have episodes, sorry, we have coverage and podcasts for every team, and it is a very exciting time to gear up for the playoffs and to just be fully entrenched in coverage. And what more could you want than 5 days a week wherever you get your favorite podcasts and on YouTube? It's great to support local creators and people who aren't being paid by people to have a certain opinion. That's the beauty of independent media. But coming up next, we are going to wrap up the show with my winners and losers of the week, and we will be back right after this. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. You can follow me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. Winners and losers of the week, in case you're new here, is something that has been integrated into the show in some way since 2020. So really since the birth of this podcast. And that, to me, that is incredible. Other than me hosting, that is like the one constant on this show. And it is, uh, a pretty straightforward winners and losers of the week. It can be outside of hockey, it can be outside of sports, it can be anything, for the sake of entertainment. So, my winner this week is, of course, MLB opening day. There is nothing that excites me more than a crisp, sunny spring day where my allergies might be killing me, and I might not be able to open my eyes fully because of all the pollen, and I can't breathe because of the pollen and all those little allergens. But baseball's on. I get to go home from work, record this podcast, make dinner, and throw on the Red Sox. Why do I torture myself with mediocre sports teams? I don't know. But there's something so exciting about just spring being here, because not only do you get Major League Baseball back, and there's so many big storylines within Major League Baseball this year to watch, and it's fun to watch it roll out. Now, I don't know how people sit down and watch 162 games of their favorite team, but good for them. I appreciate the passion. And it also means that NHL playoffs are right around this corner, right around the corner, because we have 3 days left in March, and then it's April. And the Flames have like 6 games after that, I think. 6 or 7 games. And then the playoffs start mid-April. Nothing in this world feels like spring more than a Bruins and Toronto Maple Leafs first round meeting. Like, you can feel it in the air. I don't know what y'all feel out in Alberta. The hatred for the Oilers probably, but spring, like, it is just such a refreshing feeling after the cold, the snow, the miserable winter, to finally have something fun to look forward to. And I really I love playoff hockey. Hopefully everyone's team does better than they did last year, unless you're Vegas. And we get to really embrace the warm weather and the competition and that hunger for perfection and wins. So, yeah, it's a big win for everyone who enjoys nice weather and a lot of sports on television. I also want to say that sweet Darla Forbert is my winner of the week. For those of you who may not know, Darla Forbert is Derek Forbert, who is a former Flame and LA King, uh, Basset Hound. She was a rescue that he adopted in LA, and because she was older, and he was like, well, I'm pretty sure the story is he went into the shelter and was like, show me your oldest dog. And there was Darla. If you go on Derek Forbert's Instagram, you will see. I have never seen a dog as gassy and funny as Darla Forbert. And right after the Bruins posted that they clinched the playoffs, Derek Forbert posted that Darla had passed away. And it very, very heartbreaking. And, Derek Forbert's kind of battled injuries all season, and he's on LTIR, I believe. And I'm glad that he got to spend, a lot of quality time with his dog. And if you've ever lost a pet, you know how hard that is. But like, there was something special about Darla. And even in his caption, he was like, people lit up, just like, I'll never forget how people lit up when they saw you, even if like it was just one time. They were so excited to meet you, and like you were the best dog. And it's like, yeah, that even just the videos, like, I had a parasocial relationship with that dog. She's just so funny and so cute, and just a staple to the Bruins community, I would say. But now I have to talk about the losers of the week. And that would be people being weird about Zach Hyman hitting 50 goals. I I understand that hockey is expensive. I understand there are socioeconomic barriers into the NHL or hockey, really hockey in general. But this whole week has just been really weird about the discourse surrounding Zach Hyman. I would not say Zach Hyman hit 50 goals in the NHL because his parents are rich. Your parents aren't buying you goals. I would say playing with Connor McDavid would easily elevate your performance and allow you to hit 50 goals. And the way things spiraled with this conversation, it did not feel genuine. It felt like people were just being mean, and that's not fun. We could have a legitimate conversation about, like, why Elias Lindholm had, a career year playing with Gaudreau and Tkachuk, and no one brought up his dad, who played, in the Swedish league as well as, like, I think it was, like, 14 games for the LA Kings, but, like, no one was bringing that up when that happened. They brought up the fact that Cal Yarncroke was his cousin. No one talks about Matthew Tkachuk or, Brady Tkachuk still too, having their father as, Keith Tkachuk is their father, like, I you can't buy talent. So, let's just remember that because money could buy talent. I think a lot of people would have a lot less money. But do you find it interesting that people are just, like, dismissing Zach Hyman? And, like, for me to get on here and defend a former Leaf and a current Oiler, you have to be wrong in order for me to get on here and confidently do that. So, that's that. Uh, be kind, be nice, buy someone next to you, at the office a coffee today because it's Friday, it's the end of the month. Spring is here. Spring has sprung. But until Monday, I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, and make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. You can follow the show on Twitter at LO_FlamesPod, or if you like more consistent posting, you can follow myself at Jess Belmosto and Nick at Nick Zararis, and we will see you on Monday.